A rescue team enters a collapsed building after a devastating disaster. Amidst the rubble and silence, a little girl is found clutching a battered doll. Her voice trembles as she whispers, "They left us here." Just when hope seems lost, the team notices the unit's canine, a loyal German Shepherd, refusing to move away from her side. What they uncover next reveals a story of survival, loyalty, and a bond that changes everyone forever. The city was silent, but not the silence of peace. It was the heavy, suffocating silence that follows catastrophe. A once bustling neighborhood now lay in ruins. Buildings twisted and broken like discarded toys, their concrete bones jutting into the sky. Dust hung in the air, thick and gray, coating everything in a shroud of grief. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, their echoes bouncing through the empty streets. But here, in the heart of the collapse, there was only stillness and the faint drip of water leaking from shattered pipes. A rescue convoy rolled into the devastation zone. Their headlights pierced the dust, cutting shadows across jagged rubble. Soldiers and paramedics climbed down, their boots crunching against broken glass and scattered debris. Among them walked Sergeant Thomas Hale, the leader of the Urban Search and Rescue Unit. A man hardened by years of disaster zones, his sharp eyes scanned the ruins with practiced precision, searching for signs of life amidst the carnage. But his most trusted partner was not a man. Padding silently beside him was Rex, a 5-year-old German Shepherd, his dark coat streaked with ash, his amber eyes bright with focus. Rex had worked through hurricanes, earthquakes, and bombings. He was more than a dog. He was a teammate, a lifeline, and sometimes the only one who could sense hope when humans had already surrendered to despair. Hale kept one hand resting near Rex's back, a silent connection between handler and K9 forged through years of training and countless missions. The team fanned out, their voices low but urgent. Check for cavities. Listen for movement. Thermal scanners on. It was standard procedure, but in places like this, machines often failed. The heat from collapsed wiring, the density of concrete, the chaos of overlapping sounds, it all confused technology. But Rex was never fooled. The German Shepherd's ears twitched as he sniffed the ground, nose pressed close to the debris. His entire body shifted into work mode, tail low, shoulders tense, paws deliberate. Sergeant Hale noticed the change immediately. "He's got something," he said sharply, motioning for the team to pause. The rescuers froze, their tools hovering midair. The silence deepened. Then it came, a faint sound. At first, it was impossible to tell if it was real or just imagination. A tiny, muffled tapping like fingernails against stone, over here. One of the medics whispered, dropping to his knees. I heard it too. The team surged into motion, prying away loose slabs of concrete with crowbars and gloved hands. Every movement was careful. Precise. Too much force could trigger another collapse. Dust billowed around them, stinging eyes and throats. But the sound grew clearer. A voice. Weak, trembling, but unmistakable. Help, please. It was the voice of a child. Rex barked sharply, his body vibrating with urgency as he dug at the rubble with his paws. His claws scraped against the broken concrete, sending sparks of determination through the team. Hale crouched low, pressing his ear close. There's a void under here, he muttered. We need to clear this carefully. Go slow. Minutes felt like hours as the team worked, sweat soaking through uniforms despite the chill of dust. Finally, a shaft of light pierced the darkness inside the cavity. Through the gap, Sergeant Hale saw her, a little girl, no more than 7. Her face streaked with dirt and tears, clutching a battered doll to her chest. Her lips trembled as she tried to speak. At first, her voice was no louder than the rustle of dust. Hale leaned closer, straining to hear. They left us here, she whispered. The words were so soft they could have been imagined, but the pain behind them was real. Her eyes, wide and haunting, locked with Hale's, and in that moment, the seasoned rescuer felt the weight of every disaster he had ever seen. They left us, she repeated, her tiny hand clutching the doll tighter. The men around him fell silent, shaken by the despair in her voice. But Rex did not wait. The dog pushed forward, wedging his body as close to the opening as possible, his nose brushing the girl's small fingers. A low whine escaped him, almost human in its sorrow and promise. The girl's hand trembled as she reached out, resting it gently on Rex's snout. Her breathing steadied, if only slightly, and for the first time since they had found her. Her shoulders eased. She's safe with him, one of the medics murmured, watching the strange comfort between child and dog. But Hale's instincts told him something else. Rex wasn't just offering comfort. His body language was rigid, his focus unwavering. He wasn't acting like a dog satisfied with one rescue. He was acting like a dog who knew there was more. Hold up, Hale said suddenly, lifting a hand. Don't move her yet. The team looked at him in confusion. Sir, she needs evacuation. She's dehydrated and in shock. I know, Hale replied. But Rex isn't done. Look at him. All eyes turned to the dog. Rex had planted himself beside the girl, refusing to move even when Hale called him back. His ears were perked, his nose tilted toward the darkness beyond the girl. And then he barked loud, sharp, insistent. It was not a bark of relief. It was a bark of warning. Of urgency. There's someone else down there, Hale whispered, realization sinking like ice into his veins. The rubble groaned overhead, the ground trembling faintly beneath their knees. Time was running out. But if Rex was right, and Hale knew in his bones that he was then a second. Life still hung in the balance, and that life depended on what they chose to do next. The rescue teams' flashlights pierced the darkness as they widened the narrow gap, one stone at a time. Dust rained down in choking clouds, but every pair of hands kept moving. No one dared waste a second, not with a child watching them with wide, desperate eyes. The girl, her face pale beneath the grime, clutched her doll tighter as the void around her slowly opened. Each time the rubble shifted, she flinched, her body curling protectively around the toy. It was not just fabric and stuffing she held. It was the last familiar piece of a world that had crumbled around her. Sergeant Hale crouched low, his voice gentle despite the roar of urgency inside him. You're safe now, sweetheart, he said softly, pushing his flashlight beam toward her. We're going to get you out. Can you tell me your name? Her lips quivered. Emma. She whispered. Emma. The name lodged itself in Hale's chest. Every name mattered. In every disaster, he made it a point never to let victims remain faceless. Names gave them dignity. Names made sure their story lived beyond rubble and statistics. Emma Hale repeated, his voice steady. That's a strong name. You're very brave. I need you to stay as still as you can while we clear this, okay? Emma nodded faintly, her dirt-streaked hair falling into her face. Rex pressed closer, his nose still brushing the girl's tiny fingers through the opening. She had not let go of him since their first touch. Each time his warm breath reached her skin, Emma's trembling slowed, as though the dog's presence anchored her to life. The team worked methodically. One rescuer slid a pry bar under a block of concrete, while another wedged in an inflatable airbag to lift it just enough for removal. Every piece shifted with groans and cracks, the unstable ruin reminding them of its fragility. Careful. One shouted as a chunk slipped, crashing into the cavity beside Emma. Dust billowed again, and she coughed violently, her doll dropping from her arms for the first time. Rex barked sharply, pawing at the gap as if scolding them for the mistake. Hale soothed the dog with a hand on his collar before retrieving the doll and sliding it gently back through the opening. Emma's tiny arms wrapped around it immediately, clutching it to her chest like a lifeline. Keep it slow, Hale warned his team. She's watching every move. No sudden shifts. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Every scrape of metal, every shuffle of boots against rubble, echoed like thunder in the hollow chamber. But finally, at last, the gap widened enough for a rescuer to reach inside. A medic slid a gloved hand through, palm open. Emma, can you take my hand? She hesitated, glancing first at Rex, then back at the hand. Slowly, she extended her small, dirt-covered fingers and placed them in his. Her grip was surprisingly firm, born of desperation and fear. The team exhaled in relief. Step 1 was done. They cleared the last jagged slabs and carefully pulled her through the opening. The moment her feet touched solid ground, Emma swayed unsteadily, her knees buckling. The medic caught her, wrapping her in a blanket pulled from his pack. But before anyone could lead her to the waiting evacuation crew, Rex moved. The German Shepherd surged forward, circling Emma once, then planting himself firmly at her side. His body pressed against her leg, as if tethering her to safety. His amber eyes stared at Sergeant Hale with a message clearer than words. She stays with me. Emma immediately buried her face into the dog's neck, muffling her sobs into his fur. Her small hands tangled into his coat, refusing to let go. The trembling that had racked her since they found her began to subside, replaced by the faint rhythm of Rex's steady breathing. "Good boy," Hale murmured, stroking Rex's head. But his eyes narrowed, catching something unusual. The dog wasn't just comforting her. His ears remained perked forward, his body tense. Every muscle was alert, as if his work was unfinished. Then Emma spoke again. Her voice was so soft it nearly vanished under the sounds of shifting debris and murmured orders. But those close enough froze when they heard her. "They left us here," she repeated, eyes fixed on the rubble she had just been pulled from. Tears welled up, spilling tracks down her dust-stained cheeks. She clutched Rex tighter, almost hiding behind him. "Who, Emma?" Hale asked gently, crouching down to her level, was still in there. Her eyes darted toward the collapsed passage behind her void. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, shaking her head violently as if the truth was too painful to speak. But Rex spoke for her. With a sharp bark, the German Shepherd lunged back toward the rubble. His paws dug furiously at the concrete, nose pressed into the cracks as he growled low and urgent. "Easy, boy," Hale said, rushing forward. But the dog didn't stop. His entire body screamed with intensity he knew. Emma's small voice broke the tension. Barely audible, she whispered, "My brother." The world seemed to still. The team exchanged looks, each face hardening with determination. Another child. Another life. "How old is he, Emma?" Hale asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "5, she whispered, her voice cracking. "His name is Noah. He was with me when it all fell. But then he stopped talking." Her tears fell faster, soaking Rex's fur. I thought he was gone." Rex barked again, digging harder, his claws sending sparks against buried rebar. He wouldn't stop not until they listened. Hale rose sharply. "We're not done here," he barked to his team. "There's another child trapped. Rex has the scent." The medic holding Emma protested. "Sir, the structure's unstable. We've already cleared one. If we don't push further," Hale cut in, "a 5-year-old boy dies. And Rex says he's alive." Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Then the rescuers moved, no more hesitation in their steps. Emma clung tighter to Rex, her face hidden in his fur, but her words followed them into the rubble like a haunting prayer. "Please, don't leave him too." The dog's bark echoed through the ruins, fierce and unrelenting. It wasn't just noise. It was a vow, and in that moment, every man in that rescue team understood. The real discovery wasn't just Emma. The real discovery was the life still waiting in the darkness, and the 4-legged soldier who refused to leave without him. The dust hadn't even settled from Emma's rescue when Rex made his decision clear. He planted himself in front of the jagged hole where the girl had been trapped. Hackles raised, his amber eyes locked on the shifting darkness beyond. His body was a wall, immovable and tense, as if daring anyone to try pulling him away. "Rex, heel," Sergeant Hale commanded, his voice sharp with authority. Normally, Rex responded instantly. Years of training had ingrained obedience deeper than instinct. But this time, the German Shepherd didn't move. He didn't so much as twitch an ear in Hale's direction. Instead, he growled low in his throat, pressing his nose against the rubble, inhaling deep. "Something's wrong," Hale muttered, kneeling beside his partner. He slid a gloved hand over the dog's flank, feeling the tremor of muscles taut with urgency. Rex was not being stubborn. He was telling them something. The other rescuers exchanged uneasy glances. "Sir," one began, "protocol says once we've got the primary victim out, we stabilize and if we push deeper, we risk a secondary collapse." Hale's jaw clenched. He had memorized every protocol, every line in the book. But he also knew one truth that could never be written down. You don't ignore a dog like Rex. Protocols don't smell what he smells, Hale snapped. "Emma." wrapped in a blanket on a medic's lap, clung to Rex's gaze like a lifeline. Her small voice, no louder than the hiss of settling dust, broke the silence. "He won't leave me." He didn't leave Noah either. That name Noah hung heavy in the air. It was no longer just a theory. It was personal. The team hesitated. They were battle-hardened rescuers, used to making life-or-death calls, but even they felt a shiver. The dog's defiance wasn't rebellion. It was purpose. Rex barked once, sharp and commanding, then pawed furiously at a slab of concrete blocking the collapsed corridor. Sparks danced as his claws scraped against embedded rebar. He stopped only to press his nose deep into a crack, inhaling, then turned back toward Hale with a piercing stare. "Look at him," Hale said quietly but firmly. "He's locked on. He knows." "Or he's spooked," another rescuer countered. But even as he said it, doubt clouded his voice. No one on this team had ever seen Rex spooked. Emma lifted her tear-streaked face from the medic's chest, her small body trembling. She reached toward Rex with one fragile hand. "Please," she whispered, barely audible. "Please, don't leave him." Those words shattered the last hesitation. No one could look at that child, or the dog refusing to move from her side, and walk away. "All right," Hale ordered, his voice steady. "We're going back in." The team shifted instantly, their training overriding fear. They unpacked fresh equipment: hydraulic cutters, portable lights, acoustic sensors. Each man knew the risk. Every second spent digging could bring the entire structure crashing down. But every second also meant Noah's chances dwindled. "Sergeant, you understand if this goes bad." One medic started. Hale cut him off. "If this goes bad, at least we tried. If we walk away now, that boy dies tonight. I won't carry that. And neither will Rex." Rex barked again, as if affirming his handler's words. They reformed around the dog, adjusting their helmets and respirators. The air inside the ruins was stale, thick with concrete dust that clung to their lungs. Rex led the way, pushing his nose against every crevice, pausing only when the scent grew stronger. Each time the team faltered, questioning the path, Rex barked once clear, confident, absolute. It was as though he had memorized Noah's scent and carved a trail only he could follow. "Man, I've seen dogs track bodies before," one rescuer muttered under his breath, sweat dripping down his temple. "But this is something else." "Not bodies," Hale corrected grimly. "Lives." Behind them, Emma clutched her doll and watched with wide eyes as the dog she had come to trust disappeared back into the jaws of the ruins. Deeper inside, the rubble groaned, shifting like the growl of a wounded beast. Small pebbles rained down, pelting helmets and shoulders. One slab split with a thunderous crack, forcing the team to scramble back as it slammed into the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Asterisk structures failing. Someone shouted, "We've got minutes, maybe less." Rex ignored the chaos. His nose pressed into a narrow opening beneath a fallen beam, and suddenly his body went rigid. He barked, loud and insistent, pawing furiously. His entire frame vibrated with urgency. "He's found something," Hale said, his heart slamming against his ribs. He dropped to his knees, pressing an acoustic sensor against the stone. For a long moment, Static filled his earpiece. Then faint, fragile, but real a sound emerged. A muffled, shallow cough. Alive, Hale breathed. It's him. The team erupted into motion. Hydraulic cutters bit into the steel, sparks spraying as rebar screamed under the pressure. Concrete chunks were lifted and shifted with surgical precision. Each move was deliberate, careful, as if the very earth was waiting for them to slip. Rex stayed close, barking encouragement, his eyes blazing with intensity. He never once retreated, even when dust burned his eyes and grit coated his fur. He kept his nose pressed near the opening, as if willing Noah to hold on. At one point, when the team faltered, debating if the risk outweighed the rescue, Rex did something extraordinary. He crawled forward, forcing his body into the narrow gap beneath the beam. His ribs scraping against stone, his paws clawing for traction. He wedged himself so close that his whines carried through the rubble, filling the void with a sound no machine could replicate, a promise that help was near. Emma, hearing the muffled sound of Rex's cries from where she sat outside, suddenly sobbed, harder, not with fear, but with relief. He's with him, she whispered. Rex is with Noah. Hale's chest tightened. That dog wasn't just guiding them. He was keeping the boy alive by sheer presence alone. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of battling steel and stone, a rescuer shouted, "Opening." "We've got a hole." Light pierced through the last layer of debris, and they're curled in the dust. His tiny chest rising shallowly lay Noah. His small face was pale. Lips cracked, eyes closed but fluttering faintly. Contact. "He's alive," the medic cried, voice breaking. The moment Noah's face appeared, Rex shoved his muzzle through the opening, whining fiercely as if urging the boy awake. Noah's fingers twitched, brushing the dog's nose weakly. That single motion sent a jolt of energy through the entire team. "Move. Get him out," Hale barked. They widened the hole, hands working like machines. At last, they pulled the boy free, his limp body wrapped instantly in a medic's arms. Oxygen mask, 4-line, blanketol in seconds. And through it all, Rex never left his side, pressing close enough that Noah's tiny hand clung to his fur, even in unconsciousness. When they carried Noah out into the night air, the team stumbled into silence. Emma's eyes widened, her doll forgotten as she screamed her brother's name. She ran forward, wrapping her arms around him as medics worked furiously. Rex sat beside them both, his chest heaving, his coat streaked with ash and blood from scraped skin. But his eyes never left the children. He leaned down, pressing his head against Emma's small shoulder, then nudged Noah's hand with his nose until the boy stirred faintly. Sergeant Hale knelt, resting a hand on Rex's neck. His voice, thick with pride and awe, was barely a whisper. "You refused to leave, and because of that, they both live." The men who had doubted fell silent, staring at the dog who had defied command, defied logic, defied fear itself. They no longer saw just a rescue canine. They saw a soldier who had made his choice to never leave the innocent behind. And that refusal had just rewritten the ending of this story. The air outside the ruins seemed impossibly fresh, after the choking dust of the collapse. But no one on the rescue team was breathing easy. Medics swarmed over Noah's frail body, working with urgent precision, oxygen mask pressed against his face, saline drip attached, vitals checked. His chest rose shallowly, each breath rattling like dry leaves in the wind. Emma clung to his side, her little hands shaking as she tried to hold onto his blanket. Her tear-streaked face turned constantly toward the medics, searching their expressions for any hint of hope. "Stay with me, Noah," she whispered over and over, rocking slightly, her doll forgotten on the cold concrete. "Please don't go where I can't follow." Rex lay flat beside the siblings, his chin resting on his paws but his eyes wide open, unblinking. His body touched both children, anchoring them in the present. Every time Noah's breathing stuttered, Rex's ears pricked, and he gave a low whine that silenced the medic's chatter more effectively than any order could. It was as if he, too, was measuring every fragile heartbeat. Sergeant Hale crouched close, his helmet now resting on the ground, his face streaked with dust and exhaustion. He had seen too many rescues end in tragedy. But something about this, about Rex, about the girl's whispered plea, about the boy's faint hold on life demanded faith. The medic in charge, a woman named Alvarez, finally looked up. "He's critical but stable for transport. We'll need a field hospital immediately. Internal injuries, dehydration, possible crush trauma. He's lucky to be alive." "Lucky," Hale muttered, glancing at Rex. "Luck had nothing to do with it." Emma stroked her brother's forehead with trembling fingers, whispering, "I thought you were gone. I thought I was all alone." Her words cracked, raw with the memory of hours trapped in the suffocating void. "I was so scared, Noah. But Rex, he stayed. He found you." At the sound of his name, Rex lifted his head. He looked at Emma, then at Noah, then at Hale, as though silently demanding, "Do you understand now?" Hale did. He understood all too well. But the real truth, the part that made Emma's first words, "They left us here," echo even more painfully, was only now beginning to surface. Once Noah was stabilized for transport, Hale gently pulled Emma aside. He crouched so their eyes were level, his voice calm but firm. "Emma, you're safe now. Noah's safe too. But I need to ask you something important. You said, they left us here. Who did you mean?" Emma's eyes darted to the ground. She hugged her doll so tightly the fabric tore at the seams. Her lips quivered, but no words came. Rex whined softly, pressing his head against her arm. The touch seemed to unlock something. Emma's shoulders slumped, and tears began to fall again. "It was the people in our building," she whispered, voice trembling. "When it all started shaking, everyone ran. They screamed and pushed, 'Mommy.' Mommy tried to carry Noah, but the stairs broke. She told us to stay in the corner while she went for help." Emma's face twisted with remembered terror. "But she never came back. And the others, they just kept running. They didn't even look." Hale's chest tightened. He had seen it before: panic, chaos, the instinct to survive overriding compassion. But hearing it in a child's voice made it unbearable. Emma's eyes filled with a hollow kind of hurt. "I thought we were forgotten. I thought nobody cared. That's why I told you. They left us." She looked down at Rex, who hadn't moved an inch from her side. But he didn't. He wouldn't leave. Her words hit the rescuers like a hammer. Hardened men, used to steel and stone, shifted uncomfortably, their throats thick. They had saved countless victims, but this time felt different. The truth wasn't just about survival. It was about abandonment and loyalty. Noah stirred then, groaning faintly, his eyelids fluttering open. Emma gasped and fell to her knees beside him, clutching his hand. "Noah. It's me. It's Emma." His cracked lips parted, a whisper, barely audible, escaping. Yes." She cried, tears falling freely. "I'm here. You're safe. We made it." Rex leaned closer, nudging Noah's small hand with his nose. The boy's fingers twitched, weakly tangling in the dog's fur. "Doggy," Noah murmured, his voice slurred with exhaustion. Emma laughed through her sobs, pressing her forehead against her brother's. "Yes, Doggy. His name's Rex. He saved us, Noah. He didn't leave." For a moment, the ruins around them seemed to fade, replaced by the sight of a boy's trembling hand in a dog's fur, and a girl's tears of relief. It was raw. It was pure. It was truth, but Rex wasn't done yet. As medics prepared to lift Noah onto a stretcher, Rex suddenly stood, ears pricked, nose twitching furiously at the rubble behind them. He barked once, twice, sharp and urgent. The rescuers froze. "No, no way. There can't be more," one muttered, but Hale knew that look. He had seen it too many times. "Check it," he ordered. The team deployed acoustic sensors again. Static crackled in their headsets, then, faintly, a thump. Another, like a heartbeat, in stone. Another void, Alvarez confirmed, her eyes wide. "God help us. There may be more survivors." Emma's head snapped up, her face pale but fierce. "See," she whispered. "I told you. He knows. He won't leave anyone." Rex barked again, already clawing at the debris. The truth was clear now. Emma and Noah weren't the only ones. The hidden truth was that Rex had led them not just to 2 children, but to a deeper trail of lives waiting in the darkness. And the little girl who thought she had been abandoned now understood something profound. They had not been left after all. Because Rex the dog, who refused to leave her side, was still searching, still fighting, still proving that loyalty outlives fear. That moment transformed the team. They were no longer just rescuers pulling bodies from stone. They were witnesses to something larger, the living embodiment of courage, instinct, and love in the form of one German shepherd who refused to walk away. And as Emma wiped her eyes and hugged her brother tighter, she whispered, "Mommy told us someone would come." She was right. She just didn't know. It would be him. Her hand stroked Rex's fur, and the dog, for the first time since the mission began, allowed himself a single sigh. Not relief. Not yet. But the promise of it. Because the hidden truth wasn't just about what had been lost. It was about what they were still about to find. The ruins shuddered around them. Every footstep, every shove against jagged concrete, sent tremors rattling through the skeletal walls of the collapsed building. Dust swirled in thick clouds, coating the rescuers' lungs and eyes, making every breath a battle. The faint light from flashlights danced across twisted steel and splintered wood, casting shadows that seemed alive with the threat of collapse. Sergeant Hale's heart pounded as he assessed the scene. The narrow shaft where Noah had been trapped was just the beginning. Above them, a precarious arch of concrete groaned ominously, like a beast warning them to flee. Yet he did not move. The lives of 2 children, and perhaps more, rested on their courage, precision, and trust in the one being who could sense the danger beyond human perception. Rex, the German Shepherd, pressed close to Noah. His body taut and rigid, amber eyes scanning the shadows with unflinching focus. Every muscle coiled like a spring, ready to react, his senses alert to vibrations and scents imperceptible to human teams. The dog's growl vibrated in his chest, low and warning, as if he could feel the structure's heartbeat faltering. "Watch that beam," a rescuer shouted, pointing to a jagged slab overhead that threatened to fall with the slightest nudge. Hale nodded sharply. "We move slow, eyes sharp. One false move, and this whole corridor comes down on us." He signaled to the team to tighten formation. Hydraulic cutters bit into a twisted rebar, sparks showering the walls as a man worked with steady, precise pressure. Another rescuer carefully positioned an inflatable lifting bag beneath a collapsed beam, slowly pumping it to create enough space to shift the concrete slab. Every movement was a calculated risk, a delicate balance between urgency and caution. Rex barked sharply, shoving his nose into the gap where the boy lay. It was not a bark of joy. It was a command, an insistence, a warning. The dog refused to leave, positioning his body as a living shield between Noah and falling debris. Emma's voice trembled from just outside the immediate danger zone. "Rex, be careful." Her small form peeked from behind the rescuers, clutching her doll tightly. She wanted to be close, wanted to help, but she knew instinctively to stay back. The tension was unbearable. Each creak of the structure echoed like thunder. Each fragment of debris sliding against another sounded like a countdown. But despite the danger, the team's hands never wavered. The thought of the children, the presence of Rex, lent them a focus born of desperation and hope. Finally, they reached the point where Noah had become wedged between slabs of concrete. His small body was pale and bruised, but alive, clinging to the promise that someone would find him. Hale gestured to the medics to prepare emergency stabilization as another rescuer began carefully chiseling away the surrounding debris. "Steady, Hale," muttered, gripping the dog's collar. Rex's muscles quivered under his hands, coiled for action. "I know, boy. I know it's risky, but we have no choice." Rex's tail stiffened. His ears flattened slightly, a subtle warning to the team. The building was shifting. Hale looked up just in time to see a massive chunk of ceiling concrete crack, teetering above them like a guillotine. He shouted, "Move." The team ducked instinctively, pulling Noah and themselves out of the immediate line of danger. Dust and small debris rained down, choking the air. Rex surged forward, placing himself over Noah like a protective guardian, chest low, teeth bared not in aggression, but in defiance of the collapsing world. "Almost there," Hale barked, urgency cutting through the roar of groaning concrete. A rescuer wedged his gloved hands under Noah's legs, gently lifting him, while another cleared rubble from above. Rex's growls vibrated through the tight space, a warning that danger was imminent. A steel beam above Noah shifted, groaning like a wounded animal. And for a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a coordinated effort, the team leveraged hydraulic jacks and pry bars, lifting the final slab just enough for Noah to be slid free. Rex followed immediately, shoving his body between the boy and the unstable wall, chest pressed against Noah's small frame. Dust filled their lungs. The sound of shifting debris was deafening, but the child was out. "Noah, you're okay," Emma cried, rushing forward, arms outstretched. She hugged her brother tightly, tears streaming while Rex nuzzled between them, keeping both children close, alert to every tremor and shift. But the building was not done with them. Another groan, louder and deeper, reverberated through the corridors. A second massive slab cracked above their exit path. Hale yelled, "Run!" And the team sprinted, shielding the children, while Rex darted ahead, positioning himself like a sentinel, guiding them toward the safest path amidst collapsing debris, dust, broken concrete, and splintered steel rained down. Rex leaped into falling debris with calculated precision, deflecting smaller fragments with his body, refusing to leave the children's side even for a second. Each time a slab threatened to shift again, Rex barked and nudged, steering them through narrow openings only he could identify at last. After what felt like an eternity compressed into a few harrowing minutes, they burst into the open air. Moonlight illuminated the wreckage, and for the first time in hours, the team could breathe without choking on dust. Noah was in Hale's arms, fragile but alive. While Emma clung to Rex's thick fur, Rex finally stepped back slightly, panting, chest heaving, but his eyes never left the children. His job was not yet done. His vigilance was unshakable, his loyalty unwavering. The team gathered around, awe etched into every face. The debris behind them seemed to groan one last time, as if lamenting what had been lost, but also paying tribute to what had survived. Hale knelt beside Rex, running a hand through his matted fur. "You saved them. Both of them. You refused to leave. That's heroism beyond any measure." Emma buried her face in Rex's fur, sobbing with relief. "He didn't leave us," she whispered, voice breaking but full of gratitude. "He didn't leave us." And for the first time, the full magnitude of the rescue became clear. The children were safe. The K9 had risked everything. And the team had witnessed courage not just in themselves, but in a creature whose instincts and loyalty had outshone even their own. As medics prepared to transport Noah and stabilize Emma, Hale looked back at the ruins. The building could have claimed them all in an instant. Yet, against the odds, guided by a dog who refused to abandon those who could not save themselves, life had prevailed. The rescue under fire was over. The scars of the building remained, but so did the proof of something greater: courage, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between a girl, her brother, and a German shepherd who refused to leave when it mattered most. The night air was thick with dust and adrenaline, but a fragile calm had settled over the disaster zone. The chaos of the collapse was still evident in the jagged ruins, twisted steel, and splintered concrete. Yet in the clearing where the rescue team had emerged, there was a sense of quiet triumph. Lives had been saved, and the bond forged in the belly of destruction was unshakable. Emma remained pressed against Rex's thick fur, her small hands kneading the dog's side as if willing him to absorb all her fear and pain. She smelled the lingering dust and faint smoke on his coat, but found comfort in his warmth. Noah, wrapped in a medic's blanket, blinked sleepily through swollen eyes, clutching Rex's paw as if he were holding on to a lifeline he had never known he needed. Hale watched them, chest tight with emotion he rarely allowed himself to show. He had been in countless disaster zones, saved many, and lost to many, but nothing had ever struck him quite like this moment. It was raw, unfiltered, and profoundly human. A child's trust in a dog, a sibling's relief, and the unspoken understanding between a boy, a girl, and a creature who had refused to leave when everyone else had. "Look at them," one of the medics murmured, her voice thick with awe. "They're more than safe now. They're healed in a way we can't fix with bandages." Hale nodded slowly. "It's loyalty, love, courage, and Rex. Don't forget Rex." The German shepherd, exhausted but unbowed, lay down slowly, letting out a long, rumbling sigh. His amber eyes, though heavy with fatigue, glimmered with the satisfaction of a job done yet. Not with relief, not completely. There was still the faint hum of alertness in his stance. The residue of a soldier who had faced mortal danger and refused to abandon those under his protection. Emma finally lifted her face from his fur, her eyes shining with tears that had transformed from fear to gratitude. "Thank you, Rex," she whispered, her small voice trembling but steady. "You saved us. You didn't leave us." Noah, barely able to form words, echoed her sentiment in a weak but determined voice. "Doggy saved us." Hale knelt beside them, placing a steady hand on each child's shoulder. "Both of you are safe now. Thanks to Rex, you survived. And I promise you'll never be forgotten." The medics and rescuers stood back, giving the children a moment of intimacy amidst the wreckage. For the first time, the danger seemed distant, replaced by the immense relief that comes from surviving something almost unimaginable. Emma wrapped her arms tightly around Noah, whispering to him softly as he nestled against her. Both children drawing strength from one another, and from the unwavering presence of their four-legged savior, Rex. Sensing the shift, allowed himself to relax further. His body slumped slightly, though he stayed within inches of the children, ears twitching only occasionally. Hale reached down, stroking his back, murmuring, "You're more than a dog, Rex. You're a hero. And the world needs to remember that." The team began the careful process of leading the children away from the ruins, toward the emergency medical helicopter waiting nearby. As they moved, Emma's small hand remained tucked in Rex's fur, and Noah clung to her, still holding onto the dog's paw. The medics covered the children in additional blankets to shield them from the night chill. But the warmth of survival, the warmth of love, and the warmth of loyalty coursed through them more vividly than any thermal protection could. As the helicopter rotors began to whirl, Hale took a moment to look back at the ruin. The building loomed like a monument to chaos, yet the debris no longer felt purely menacing. It was a testament to the courage, resilience, and unbreakable bonds forged in moments of extreme adversity. And at the center of it all, a German shepherd, who had refused to leave when it mattered most, stood as a living symbol of hope. The children were lifted into the aircraft, one by one. wrapped securely in blankets and harnessed in the medical stretchers. Hale and the team remained below, ensuring the path was clear. Rex, ever vigilant, followed closely until the last moment, then allowed himself to step back, watching the children ascend into safety. Emma leaned over slightly from the stretcher, pressing her lips against Rex's fur in a small, heartfelt kiss. "I love you, Rex," she whispered. "I love you for never leaving." Noah, still weak, murmured, "Love you too," and pressed his cheek against the dog's side. It was a quiet, tender moment, one that encapsulated hours of terror, resilience, and the discovery that even in the darkest hours, loyalty could illuminate the path to survival. Hale took a step back, inhaling the cool night air, and allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability. "This is what it's all about," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Not medals, not fame, not even protocol. It's about being there when it matters, and Rex, you embody that more than any of us ever could." The rescue team lingered as the helicopter lifted off, watching the children fade into the night sky, safe and in capable hands. Hale's gaze returned to Rex, who sat proudly, chest heaving, ears flicking as though listening to a world only he could perceive. A sense of completion settled over the team. The adrenaline faded, replaced by gratitude, awe, and the kind of quiet reverence reserved for those rare moments when courage, instinct, and loyalty converge. Rex had not only saved 2 lives, he had shown humanity what it truly meant to refuse to abandon those in need. Emma and Noah would never forget him, nor would anyone who witnessed the rescue. He had become more than a K-9 unit. He had become a living emblem of hope, courage, and the profound power of loyalty. As Hale finally approached Rex, he crouched low, placing both hands on the dog's shoulders. "You did it, boy. You didn't just find them. You didn't just save them. You held them together when the world tried to break them apart. That's heroism." Rex tilted his head, amber eyes meeting Hale's, and let out a soft, contented sigh. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to fully relax. The children were safe. The mission was complete. And he had kept his promise in the distance. The ruins lay silent once again, but the echoes of courage, love, and loyalty lingered in the air. Emma whispered one final time, almost to herself. "He didn't leave us, he stayed." And in that moment, under the quiet stars, and amidst the scars of disaster, the truth was undeniable. Some heroes do not wear badges, some heroes do not carry weapons, and some heroes walk on 4 paws. Rex, the German Shepherd, had refused to leave, and in doing so, he had rewritten the story of survival, loyalty, and hope for 2 children who had nearly been lost to despair. This expanded section VI runs approximately 1,050 words. It emphasizes the emotional release, the profound bond between the children and Rex, the team's awe, and the thematic message that true heroism is defined by loyalty, courage, and love rather than recognition or protocol. The sun rose slowly over the city, casting pale golden light across the ruins that had claimed so much, yet spared a few. Dust hung in the air like a soft veil, glinting in the early rays. The devastation was still stark, twisted steel, jagged concrete, shattered glass butt among the rubble. A different kind of story had taken root, one of courage, loyalty, and the enduring bond between human and animal. Emma and Noah sat on the edge of a cleared space near the temporary aid station, wrapped snugly in blankets, their faces finally free of the dust and grime that had clung to them for hours. They were safe, hydrated, and slowly regaining color. Yet what captivated everyone around them was not their physical recovery, but the quiet presence beside them. Rex, the German Shepherd, had returned to his natural, alert posture. But there was a calmness in his stance that hadn't been there during the night's chaos. He had accomplished what many deemed impossible, yet there was no pride in his eyes. Only vigilance. Only loyalty. Only the unwavering commitment that had carried two children through the night of terror. Sergeant Hale knelt beside Rex, brushing a hand through his matted fur. You changed their lives, Rex. You didn't just save them. You showed all of us what it means to never walk away. His voice, steady but full of emotion, carried across the small gathering of rescuers, medics, and volunteers who had witnessed the aftermath. Emma leaned forward, pressing her small hands against Rex's side, her forehead resting briefly on his fur. I don't think anyone could ever be as brave as you, she whispered softly, but you stayed. You saved us. Noah's tiny hand reached up to rest on Rex's paw. Best dog, he murmured, his voice thick with fatigue and awe. The crowd of rescuers and onlookers had gathered, witnessing a quiet ceremony of sorts, not for medals, not for recognition, but for something far more profound, a demonstration of loyalty and courage that transcended species. Hale stood, addressing everyone around him, his tone solemn yet filled with hope. Today, we were reminded that heroism is not always measured in commands or statistics. Sometimes, it is measured in heartbeats, in instincts, in the refusal to leave someone behind. Rex showed us that he risked everything for two children who could not save themselves. And in doing so, he became a symbol not just for rescue teams, but for the entire community. A volunteer approached, kneeling to scratch Rex behind the ears. He's amazing, she murmured. I've seen heroes before, but I've never seen loyalty like that. Never. Hale nodded. It's rare, yes, but it's real. And it's worth remembering. Over the following days, the story of Rex and the children spread through the city. Local news outlets picked up the tale, showing images of the children clutching the German Shepherd, their faces radiant with relief and trust. The narrative resonated far beyond the disaster zone. People didn't focus on the rubble or the tragedy, they focused on a dog who refused to abandon those who depended on him, even when every human protocol suggested he should. Emma and Noah, now safe with relatives and receiving the care they needed, became living reminders of the rescue. Every visit to the hospital, every time they recounted their experience, included Rex, always Rex at their side. Eyes alert, head high, ears twitching at the slightest sound, ready to protect again if needed. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the skyline, Emma sat on the steps of the aid station with Noah curled beside her. Rex lay at their feet, chin resting on his paws, amber eyes glowing in the fading light. She hugged the dog tightly, whispering again and again, "Thank you. You didn't leave us. You stayed. Noah pressed his small face into Rex's fur, his voice muffled. Always stay. Hale observed from a short distance, helmet in hand, heart full. He had spent his career training humans and animals alike, preparing for emergencies that tested every ounce of courage and skill. But even he recognized that what he had witnessed in Rex went beyond training. It was instinct elevated by love and loyalty. Courage manifested in fur and fangs. The ruins behind them would one day be cleared, rebuilt, and forgotten in the bustle of a city recovering from disaster. But Rex's legacy, and the story of Emma and Noah, would linger much longer. It was the kind of story told in classrooms, shared among families, and recounted in the quiet moments when people reflected on what truly mattered in life: presence, bravery, and the refusal to abandon those who rely on you. In the weeks that followed, Rex was honored in small, meaningful ways. The rescue team held a ceremony, presenting him with a medal not for obedience, but for courage and unwavering loyalty. Newspapers and social media shared his story far and wide. Children wrote letters thanking him. Adults left treats at the rescue headquarters. And Emma and Noah's parents visited often, tears glistening in their eyes, overwhelmed by gratitude. Yet for Rex, the recognition was secondary. He remained alert, watchful, and protective, the embodiment of a hero whose actions spoke louder than accolades. His loyalty was not performative. It was instinctive, absolute, and unwavering. He had done what no human could. He had refused to leave when it mattered most, and in doing so, he had given life, hope, and trust back to two children who had nearly lost everything. As dusk settled over the city, Hale knelt once more beside Rex. "You've taught us all something tonight," he said softly. "That some heroes don't wear uniforms. Some heroes don't carry weapons. Some heroes walk on for paws and refuse to leave when it matters most." Emma, clutching her doll, nodded vigorously beside him. "He's our hero," she whispered, "forever." Noah reached up to stroke Rex's head, his small hand trembling. "Best hero," he murmured. Rex nudged their hands gently, a quiet affirmation that he understood. Not a word spoken, not a medal worn, not a ceremony staged could match the bond forged in the fire of disaster. He had chosen to stay. He had chosen to save. And in the hearts of two children, a rescue team, and a community, his loyalty and courage would live forever. The camera of memory would hold a final shot. The children, safe and smiling, sitting beside their four-legged guardian. The ruins of the collapsed building in the background, bathed in golden sunlight. In that frame, there was no fear, no disparity, love, loyalty, and hope. And in that moment, everyone understood the truth. Sometimes, heroes do not wear uniforms or carry weapons. Sometimes, heroes refuse to leave, no matter the danger. And the world is better for it. Rex's legacy was secure not in medals or recognition, but in the lives he saved, the trust he earned, and the hearts he touched. And for Emma and Noah, it was a promise they would never forget. They were never alone. Not when Rex was there.